Welcome back to WHIP, Philadelphia's #1 college radio station. On the phone, we have a very special guest with us today. The man's name is Sam Carchidi. He's been a writer for the Inquirer for 40 years. He's been a Flyers beat writer for 8 years. He's the author of Bill Campbell, the voice of Philadelphia sports, and he's the president of the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association. Sam, how are you today?
Good, Zach. Good to be with you today.
Thanks for having me on the show. Let's get right into it. Your Stanley Cup prediction last year was dead on. You predicted the Chicago Blackhawks to beat Tampa Bay. I thought Tampa Bay was a contender, but I wasn't going to go as far as saying they were going to win the whole thing. That was a very good pick. This year, you have Washington over Anaheim. Can you give me a little rationale behind that?
Yeah, you know what? Washington, I thought, was a real solid team last year. They came, within one goal of getting to the Eastern Conference Final. And as you know, if you get to the final, anything can happen. And they lost a tough game to the Rangers in the Eastern Conference semifinal. And they picked up, to me, two winners, TJ Oshie and Justin Williams. Two guys will be on the right wing for them. And Justin Williams, Flyer fans know him well. He's been the good luck charm, whether it's been in Carolina or with the Kings. And he has the nickname Mr. Seventh Team, and that comes with good reason. He's a very clutch player, and I think Oshie will help them too. And, I just like them all around. I mean, and most people know about Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom, and they have excellent goaltending, a solid defense, and to me, Braden Holtby is a guy, much like Steve Mason, who kind of flies under the radar a little bit, but he's a top-notch goalie. So, I just think it's the Capitals' year, and, it's going to be tough sledding in the East, especially with Tampa Bay. I think they're loaded, too. But if they get by Tampa Bay and some other teams, they'll probably face a team like Anaheim in the Western Conference Final. Don't discount Chicago either, but I think Anaheim is very solid. As you know, it's tough to repeat in the NHL. So I look for a Washington-Anaheim final, and we'll see if I'm as accurate. It'll be tough to match last year's predictions, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, it will be tough to match last year's, undoubtedly. I mean, when you have TJ Oshie, Nicholas Backstrom, and Alexander Ovechkin on one line, that is just terrifying. You mentioned Tampa Bay, you mentioned the Capitals. Who else do you think is going to be the competition for the Flyers in terms of getting to the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I think the Rangers will be there. I think the Penguins will be there. To me, the most improved team, not only in the division but in the conference, I think maybe the Columbus Blue Jackets. They were just killed by injuries last year, and they're healthy this year, and they made some smart moves. I think Columbus could actually contend for the Metro title, and I've actually picked them to get to the Eastern Conference Final. I think they're going to be the biggest surprise, and they'll come the furthest away. From last year, they did not make the playoffs last year, and they're healthy this year. And like I said, they made a few wise moves. I thought off-season, Brandon Saad is there now. He'll be on their top line. Johansson's a star. Nick Foligno and Dubinsky, Scotty Hartnell is a solid left winger. He's still productive after all these years. And of course, they have former Flyer Bobrovsky in the goal, and Jack Johnson anchors their defense. So I think they'll be a top team to watch, and I don't discount them. It wouldn't be shocking to me, believe it or not, if they came out of the East and won. But there are a couple of teams in the East to look for, and I think the Flyers will have a tough road this year. I see them finishing sixth in the Metro, and of course, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. But if some of the players like Braden Chen and like Sean Couturier, Matt Reed, if they can improve over last year, the Flyers certainly have a shot. I think they'll definitely be in contention for a playoff spot. Whether they get there or not remains to be seen.
We're talking with Sam Carchidi, Philadelphia Inquirer beat writer for the Philadelphia Flyers. Sam, let's change gears here, switch to the Flyers. There's a variety of things to talk about. The thing that's been getting headlines is Andrew McDonald has been sent down to the Phantoms. How surprised are you with that move?
I was a little surprised. I mean, I wrote the day before that it was a possibility. But to me, I thought all along they would trade Luke Shen, and I know they've been trying to trade Luke Shen. When that didn't happen, they went to Plan B, and it's a surprise in the fact that they're paying a guy $5 million a year, and the embarrassment that goes with it, and it embarrasses the organization that you gave this guy a 6-year, $30 million contract, but give them credit for making the move and realizing the mistake, if you will, they do get $950,000 of cap relief with the move. So they get a little bit of cap relief. And interestingly enough, Luke Shen, who's been battling for a spot on the roster today, Dave Haxtell announced that Shen will be the sixth defenseman, and Ratko Gudas is the odd man out. So Gudas will start the year as the extra defenseman. So some interesting moves. I mean, McDonald to me is basically a third pairing guy. They overpaid him. He did play very well when they acquired him from the Islanders. He had a 19-game stint with the Flyers, and if the Flyers didn't overpay him, somebody else would have. And in retrospect, they probably should have let somebody else, because you can't get that much money to a third pairing guy.
If you told a Flyers fan about 3 weeks ago that at the start of the season, Andrew McDonald would be sent down and Shane Gottisbehere would also be sent down, what do you make of that? Why is Gottisbehere not here?
Well, you know what? I think I can understand that totally, because here's a guy who's only played 6 professional games. He tore his ACL last year. He only played a couple games with the Flyers and a handful with the Phantoms. I think it was 5 with the Phantoms, 2 with the Flyers. So, he needs some seasoning. I think he's NHL ready offensively right now. Defensively, he's got a lot to learn. He's got to play better away from the puck. And but that said, I think you will see him before the season's over. I think you'll see him back to the Flyers. Wouldn't be surprised if he's here, midway through the year. But he needs to play. He only played 7 games last year, and once he gets some seasoning, I think he'll be here, and I think he'll be here to stay.
The Flyers last season were 27th in penalty kills at 77.1%. This defense is relatively new. I mean, you got a lot of turnover here. What do you think the defense needs to do to get that number up?
Well, as far as the penalty kill, I think you're going to see Claude Giroux playing a lot more on the penalty kill this year. I think, in hindsight, I think that probably hurt them. They wanted you're between a rock and a hard place here. You want Giroux to be rested and ready to go for the offensive shifts, but at the same time, you don't want to have the 27th ranked penalty kill in the league. So I think, Haxtell the other day said that Giroux would probably get more time this year on the penalty kill. That'll help the penalty kill. And, a guy like Medvedev, I think, will certainly help. And, they have made some changes on defense. Brandon Manning is here. Medvedev is here. There's a chance we'll see Gudas. I'm sure you'll see Gudas in the lineup at some point. So the defense should be a little better. And the old adage that the best defense is a good offense. I'm talking about even strength situations now.
Sure.
That's an area where the Flyers were not that good last year. But, I think Haxtell's system kind of emphasizes turnovers in the middle of the ice, in the neutral zone, and trying to go in on the odd man break, the odd man rush. So it's a little bit different system than they have with Berube, in that they're trying to control the neutral zone. And they didn't do a good job of that against the Devils. But again, the Devils are the Devils. They trap, and they're really tough to go up against. They have a really tight defense. But, it's kind of like a work in progress. I think you'll see the Flyers get better as the year goes on. They learn Dave Haxtell's system.
We're talking with Sam Carchidi, author of Bill Campbell, the voice of Philadelphia sports. He's the president of Philadelphia Sports Writers Association, and he's been a writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer for 40 years now. You're talking Claude Giroux. You have Giroux, you have Simmons, you have Voracek. Those forwards are great. But on offense, you need somebody to step up a little bit more. Philadelphia was 21st in goals per game last year at 2.9 versus 2.72 goals against. That was 10th. One of these young forwards has to step up. Who do you think it's going to be?
I think if I had to pick somebody, it would be Braden Shen. Shen, as a lot of people know, is playing for a contract. I mean, they gave the big contract to Couturier in the offseason. They did not give it to Braden Shen, so they gave Couturier a vote of confidence. And in essence, they said to Braden Shen, you have to show me what you can do. He's going to start the year on left wing, which, by the way, is probably his worst position. He's much better either in the middle or on right wing, and would not be surprised if he ended up on right wing before the year's over. But they'll start on left wing with Couturier and Simmons. And, he quietly put up 47 points. Didn't have a great year last year, but he had a steady year. But he was not as consistent as he could have been. Steady in that he chipped in with 47 points, but he's got to be a little more consistent. They're hoping for consistency from him. They also need Couturier to step up, and as I mentioned before, they need Matt Reed to step up, and even R.J. Humbert are the 4 guys right there that had disappointing seasons last year. did last year when he was healthy. So you're absolutely right, Zach. They definitely need more production. If they don't get it, they won't be a playoff team. If they do get it, they'll certainly be a playoff contender.
I agree, Sam. Braden Shen has really stuck out in this preseason, I thought. He's doing things that not a lot of guys in the NHL can do. He's only 24 years old. I like his prospects, like yourself. Now, another question for you. Do you foresee a scenario, perhaps where the Flyers not only make the playoffs, but they can make a run at the Stanley Cup?
Well, you know what? If you get good goaltending, anything can happen in a short series. I really don't see that, to be honest. I think if this team just made the playoffs and got in and played a round or two, it would be a very successful season. But, this team's future will be in a couple of years. You got a lot of good prospects. You mentioned Gostisbehere, Travis Sanheim, Sam Morin, who has struggled in the early going with the Phantoms, but, he's right there. And a guy like Travis Konechny, to me, was one of the most outstanding players in camp, and he's a right winger who gives them speed, which is much needed. He could be here next year. So, to me, this is almost like a bridge until you get to some of those guys. I think some of them will be here this year, and others will be here next year. But I don't think expectations should be that high this year. Like I said, if they did make the playoffs, it would certainly be a successful year. But, I don't want to dampen your enthusiasm because, we saw what happened in 2010. This was a team that qualified for the playoffs on the last day of the season, got hot at the right time, and went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and actually should have won the Cup Finals. If Michael Leighton had a good final, they probably would have been the Stanley Cup champion. So, anything can happen as long as you get there, and that's what they're trying to do this year is end that drought. They've missed the playoffs in 2 of the last 3 years, and they haven't changed a lot of pieces. The defense is a little different, but they haven't changed many offensive pieces. But they're hopeful a year of maturity will help some of these forwards to develop and take the next step forward.
Yeah, Couturier definitely needs to take a step forward. You have Robert Hagg, you have Sam Morin, Shane Gostisbehere. Do you see any of those guys being up here this season?
I do. I think Ghost will be here. I think he had a good showing in the preseason. He scored 3 goals, and offensively, as I said before, I think offensively he's ready. He could be a big boost on the power play, and offensively he's terrific. But he does need some work defensively. I would not be surprised if Mark Streit was traded at some point, in 2016, whether it's early 2016 or right before the deadline. And to me, Gostisbehere will be natural to take his spot, not only in the defensive rotation, but also as the quarterback of the power play.
Last question for you. Dave Haxtell, new guy in town. In any team, in any professional sport, there's that period of time where, he needs to implement the new system, the new scheme. He needs to get players to gel. How long do you expect this, learning curve period to take?
I think it's going to take a while. I think, they'll be learning and they'll be learning together. I think the Flyers will be learning his system, and Dave Haxtell will be, learning the NHL. And he said today that he's really leaned on Joey Holland and Ian LaPerriere and some of the other assistant coaches to really teach him the intricacies of the game and stuff you don't even think of, the schedule, the travel, and just some of the duties that a lot of people don't see, some of the behind-the-scenes work that you have to do. And so it's going to be a work in progress for him. And I think it's going to take a few months for the team to learn his system. But I think the Flyers will be a much better team in the second half of the season. And there's reason for excitement. I think Ron Hextall thought outside the box with this move, and I think it was a good move. It may take a while before we see results on the ice, but I think the Flyers are moving in the right direction.
Bonus question. He pulled the trigger on Andrew McDonald. Do you see anything happening with Vinny Lecavalier?
Well, right there, the problem there, like McDonald, is that, you have a $4.5 million cap hit. Unlike McDonald, you can't send Vinny. Vinny's got a no movement clause. You can't send him down. And it's a little puzzling because when camp started, Vinny was given a shot to be the third center. He played well in the beginning of camp and then kind of struggled after that. So, if somebody goes down with an injury, you'll see him here. They've been trying to trade him. That's no secret. They've been trying to trade him for over a year now, but haven't been able to. Vinny still has something left in the tank on the power play. He can be helpful in the second power play unit. I think he can be, he can give you some good quality minutes still as a right winger. Maybe on the fourth line, you might see him in there occasionally. But right now, I don't see him getting a lot of time unless there's an injury. Give Vinny credit though; he's been a good soldier. He's been a good teammate. Hasn't complained, and there's no question he's taken a step back. He's not the same player he was obviously when he was with Tampa Bay, but he's still a good teammate, and he's a good guy for some of the younger guys to learn from, just how he prepares for the game. Came into camp in great shape, and he'll be ready if need be.
All right. Thank you very much for your time today. That is Sam Carchidi. He is the man at the Inquirer for the past 40 years. He's a Flyers beat writer for the past 8. He's the president of the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association and author of Bill Campbell, the voice of Philadelphia sports. Sam, I want to thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Zach. Good to be with you.